Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London, and you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer and as a designer on Ravelry as Skeindeer Knits. And then there is the Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits, which is the best place to take part in knit-alongs, so the community, potential giveaways, getting help with my patterns, or just getting in touch. It's the place to be. And yeah, if you are a new viewer, welcome. This is my little knitting talk show here on YouTube, where I just babble on about the stuff that I make. I knit other people's patterns, such as the Threipmere by Isolde Teague, or my own designs, such as this, whatever this shawl is going to be called. Also, this is the Fern and Feather sweater by Jennifer Steinglass. But if you have questions about any of the knitting that I'm showing you that is not linked below, then there is always my Ravelry projects for that. And yeah, to returning viewers, welcome back. It's good to have you back on here. I'm just going to jump straight into the admin talk, which I will try to cover briefly, and then I am going to thank a lot of you for a lot of things, and finally I will be actually getting into the knitting talk, show you what I have finished and the stuff I'm working on. And there is just one acquisition, I think, which is like, who am I even? Someone who's preparing for Unravel or an Edinburgh Yarn Festival, that is who. I did also ask Instagram for some questions just before I hit record, so if I run out of content, I'm gonna just jump on and finish off with some questions and answers. Anyway, I am running 2 knit-alongs at the moment. Or 2 is quite little for me. I am running the year-long knit-along of 2019, where we aim to make 6 pairs of colourwork mittens for the duration of 2019. The mittens cannot have been started before 2019 and need to be finished by the end of the year. And in all fairness, I do ask that you don't take any shortcuts, no loopholes, no just like 6 pairs with chunky yarn, and like, you know, that's not fair comparison to people who do 6 pairs of fingering weight yarn. So we're trying to mix things up, but there are no exact boundaries, so just keep that in mind. And then yes, it is only for mittens and not ornaments. And the other knit along I'm running, which is a much more short-lived one, it's the second language cal. That was the best name I could think of. It doesn't have to be your second language. It has to be you knitting a pattern in a language that you don't often knit from. I have put the sort of arbitrary boundary that you can't have knit it more than 5 times. So yeah. A good example would be if you are like me, a Norwegian, and you haven't ventured into English language patterns yet, for instance. And then there's a lot of you who do not speak Norwegian and would like to knit one of those many Norwegian language patterns that have not been translated into any other language. So you can take this in either direction, and you can look into Japanese patterns to Baltic patterns. Like, there are knitting patterns from all over the world. I am not putting any boundaries, but I'm just saying it has to be a language that you don't often knit from. And again, I ask you to not find any loopholes there. Don't just like, oh, I'm Norwegian, but there's a Norwegian pattern that's been translated into English. You know, we are trying to keep it within the spirit of the knit-along. Yeah, those are the only knit-alongs I am running. I did put up a video recently of prizes for the previous knit-along, so that is all done and over with, and I will be shipping it out soon because I am slow and I don't really leave the house much nowadays. Now, I was gonna shower you with a bit of gratitude, because there's a lot of things that I have to be grateful for. The first thing is, and something I forgot to mention, which is kind of, yeah, shame on me, but I won an award. Basically, the Knit Now magazine, they had a poll up, so to speak. They had a bunch of categories with a bunch of nominees who could win with some, like, the award within that title, and there were several winners per category, and my category was Online Innovator, and I am a winner, one of many winners, and that is very exciting, and it is thanks to you guys. So thank you so much. This is the first time I've ever been like awarded anything like that, so that is very exciting. Gosh, I don't know what else to say. I know there's like part of the prize is going to the West Yorkshire Spinners Mill. I still don't know if I can make it. There is obviously Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I have my own obligations here in London, but I hope to make it. I haven't really thought about this yet. I shouldn't be saying anything on the podcast, but I wanted to say thank you for voting for me. The second thing I wanted to thank you for was the immense support that I got for the comment that I put in an episode earlier where I said that there had been a few that had said that it was really annoying to watch my videos because I don't always look into the camera, that I will often take prolonged amounts of time to look away, and I'm like, that's really hurtful. And it's not just hurtful for me but for other people who have that need to divert their gaze when they think. And I wasn't really expecting anyone to pick up on that comment. I thought some people would just be like, oh, negativity, oh, and then other people would just ignore it because it's not about them. But you guys were so supportive. Oh my days, thank you. You were amazing. That comment section just made my day or week. I mean, the comments are still coming in and you guys are awesome, so thank you. It makes me feel very comfortable doing this and that means a lot. The other thing I wanted to thank you for was that I didn't have to moderate the comment section of last episode whatsoever. I was certain that I had to basically spend every waking hour having that tab open with a comment section to quickly be able to delete any racist or racism denying comment, and I didn't have to delete a single one. Everyone were lovely. That, I mean, I'm not shocked, I'm just really pleased, and I'm so happy to be able to say that we are a lot further on the journey to making this podcast and this community a safe space for people of colour. So I wanted to thank you all for that, and I also wanted to make sure that everyone knows. Yeah, I feel very proud of the Skeindeer Knits community at the moment, if you can't tell. The last thing I have to thank you for, which just... I'm gonna have to give a bit of a backstory on this one for those of you who do not know what happened last week. Oh boy, this is a story. I like I said, just put up that video where I had basically said that it's an anti-racist platform, and so I was waking up that morning expecting to have to delete some comments off of my channel, and I didn't find any, and I was quite pleased, and I was going to log into Instagram and I couldn't. And as I'm trying to log in, my friend Amy from the Stranded podcast texted me. She doesn't usually text me, we usually talk on Instagram, and then she was like, where are you, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, I can't log into Instagram, what is this? And she's like, you've gone. Yeah, it turns out my account on Instagram had been deactivated, and the only thing I could do was to click on learn more, which sent me to this generic site that implied that I had been banned for spam. And I don't spam people on Instagram, so either this has been a mistake due to like recent legislation changes and some like decisions that have been made, which is possible, or actually there are people who get together to decide that they are going to mass report someone for spam because they do not like what they have to say about, say, oh, I don't know, being against racism, for instance. It's a common tactic to silence people. I do not feel particularly hurt by that, but I do recognize that this is a thing that happens to people who are marginalized and speak up about it, and so that's rubbish. I'm quite happy to say that my account was reinstated at the end of that day. I was not given any reason as to why they put me back on, but what I will say is that I was completely floored by the rallying that happened in my name, and also for Knitsonic, Felix, who was also banned, who's also been quite outspoken, so there is a... So regardless of what the reasons were, I cannot speculate. I have my suspicions, but we do not know. I will regardless say that I am so utterly grateful to all of you. Super thankful to Amy, who basically this moment that I woke up and we found that I was gone, started rallying for me and basically engaging everyone to message Instagram and post stories and posts about how my account has been deactivated and that they wanted Instagram to bring me back. That was... I don't know, I just have this tendency of always feeling like an outsider. I don't know if anyone appreciates the stuff I put out there unless people tell me so, and so people were all of a sudden telling me so, and I was like, oh. You know, and like, oh, this is going to be a bad comparison, but you know, like in funerals, when people say the loveliest thing about the person who has died, and the person can't hear it, that is kind of what it was. This terrible analogy. But it was a bit like that where suddenly when I'm no longer on Instagram, it's like people posting the kindest things about me and like saying what I contribute with, and I don't even want to recite it because it makes me sound so full of myself, but it was really humbling. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to make it all about me, because this is the thing, like I said, that happens to marginalized groups of people for being outspoken, and that is not okay. So I really do hope to see this kind of reaction too when it happens to others as well. So yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am now finally ready to talk about knitting with you guys. I have actually, I think, 3 finished objects. My goodness, arguably 4 if we count a project that isn't technically mine. But I'm gonna show you anyway, why not? I need to bulk up this episode with something. Speaking of bulking up this episode with something, you know the Lanea Vinea socks? I gave them a wash in the machine. You shouldn't really machine wash hand-dyed. I don't usually do that, I don't know. It was late in the day, I was just like, let's just chuck it all in there. I don't want to have to think about it. I'm not usually scared about machine washing my hand knits because they're usually commercial yarns, and even non-superwash you can machine wash just as long as you have the right program, which I did. But they weren't the most compatible colors, so while these came out okay, although I will say there was more pink on in the other yarn, I can deal with that. These have now a bit of a pink hue to them. As to the socks that I am wearing, they came out nearly purple in the beginning, and then I just gave them 2 other washes and it's nearly white now, but this isn't completely white. I don't know, it looks kind of white on camera, but yeah. There is definitely a pink hue to these, so how am I 29 and I don't know that colors on anything bleeds in the wash, that you do not wash white together with highly saturated colors. This isn't rocket science, Ellie. This is... You can tell that my wardrobe is primarily black. There's no white lingerie in this house, no. I mean, I can't speak for my flatmates, but goodness me, this is a horrible digression. Let's get on to the knitting. Point is, I'm ridiculous. I can't wash things. One finished item that I have this week that I was kind of hoping to wear, but I haven't woven in the ends and it would look ridiculous. But I'm very, very pleased to finally be able to show you something that's been going on for nearly a year. Floof! Oh my god, it's so fluffy. I am so pleased to have floof done. I'm gonna back up a bit so you can see the whole entirety that is floof. This is a design by yours truly. It is not color work for a change. I mean, what? Yeah, no color work. This is actually holding together a silk mohair. This one in particular has been discontinued by Debbie Bliss, but you can use any silk mohair under the sun. All the lace weight ones, they are pretty interchangeable, so you can go with anything from Rowan to Shibui to Isager to whatever. I can really recommend Filcolana Telia, actually, just FYI. And I'm holding this silk mohair together with JC Rennie Super Soft. I haven't actually announced that yet because I thought that would be a thing that I could, I don't know, surprise you with later. So you can see it's quite marbled because the JC Rennie is more, it's warmer. And the Debbie Bliss silk mohair is colder, and it sort of becomes this amazing marbled effect. This is a contiguous sweater that I cast on in April or May. It should have come out ages ago, but I am happy to say it's coming out very soon. All my test knitters are done ages ago because they're amazing, and I even got photography from one of them, so she's happily modeled it and she's amazing. She's a friend of mine. We're going to Edinburgh together and it's all really ready to go. I need to get in touch with my tech editor and I need to fix up some errors, but really just keep your eyes peeled for this one. It really isn't a long way away, especially now that I don't have to do the photography, but it is done. It is quite boxy, as you can see. It's got a nice shoulder fit, doesn't drop, but it's certainly going out to the edges of the shoulders because it is supposed to be a bit more oversized than your usual satin sleeve look. But there is no satin sleeve. This is all done in one piece, the way you do a raglan, only with slightly more strategically placed increases for the top down. And there are more increases happening down here, which is what makes it kind of oversized and loose fitting and comfortable. It also has a high-low hem that sits a bit lower at the back than the front. The nice thing about top-down knits is that basically as soon as you divide it for the sleeves and the body, you can start to just wing it. So if you don't like the excessive sleeve length of the pattern, you can make that shorter. If you don't like the high-low hem, you can just knit it in the round. You can knit it longer or shorter even. You can also omit the extra increases that are towards the underarm so that it becomes less oversized. I mean, that's entirely up to you. You could basically knit a smaller size than the bust piece that's recommended. Quite versatile, basically. It's really simple. I basically wanted to, oh god, I'm introducing this as though it's a pattern that's come out yet. It hasn't, but I want to tell you about it anyway, and then you're just gonna have to put up with me repeating myself when it's actually out. I wanted to design a very basic stockinette item just to kind of test out my designing abilities and where they're at, and it's really helped me grow as a kind of a garment constructioner, tailor, is that the word? And yeah, just see what I can do without hiding behind all the color work, essentially. It was a really nice challenge, and I also wanted to offer you guys a plain stockinette, a contiguous design where you can explore that construction method without any other fuss, because most patterns out there that are contiguous will have some other feature that is like a texture or something, and I kind of want to make just a very plain one. And yeah, it does look a little bit like it's got a bit of a bump at the shoulder. This is just kind of what gives you a nice defined shoulder. It doesn't give you a puff sleeve or anything, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But anyway, you will hear more about this when it's out, but I am very happy to say it's done. It's off the needles and it's so light. I mean, the thing about silk mohair sweaters is that you hold the yarn double, right? It's double silk mohair and wool, and it becomes quite heavy. And the heavier the garment, I don't know if I'm just speaking for myself, but the heavier it is, the less likely I am to bring it around with me and to wear it. And so I have chosen some very lightweight yarns. It's a light fingering held together with a silk mohair, and it's like almost like it's elevating. So yeah, it's a bit of a stark purple to what I normally do. Everyone's like, no Ellie, you always knit this color. What are you talking about? But yeah, weaving in ends, not a thing I do too much. I did weave in the ends of the hat last week, so I'm going to show it again this week. This is the top hat by Woolly Wormhead. I just wanted to show it again because it didn't look quite right on camera last week because I hadn't blocked it, and I have done so since. I literally just soaked it and had it dry flat, and it's made a huge difference, right? It doesn't have that weird bulging that the short row sections, the whole hat is a short row section, but what, yeah, the leaf panels had. It was kind of uneven and it didn't look right, and now that's just been laying in the water and the water's been squeezed out and it's dried. It's really nice and sort of more even and smooth. Though I will say I probably didn't have to go up in gauge because it's got a very nice and loose fit on my ginormous head right now. It doesn't fall off, so I'm really pleased with the fit anyway, but I didn't have to go up in size really. Anyway, that's the top hat for you. I'm not entirely sure about the pronunciation, but we're going with it. I have finished another hat since last time. It's not one of the hats that I was knitting on, but a hat that I basically purchased and knit the same day. It looks like this. It is currently on a balloon because, oh well, I will start from the beginning. This is the Hoarfrost hat, I think it's called, pronounced, words, language, English, I don't know. This is a design by the petite knitter who makes amazing colorwork designs, so you should definitely check out her designs on Ravelry. Like I said, the petite knitters, not to be confused with Petite Knit, who is a Danish designer. The petite knitter is a Canadian designer and she lives up in the Arctic, and it looks amazing there. She's got fabulous photography on her Instagram feed, and she's also been very vocal in the recent racism discussions and has done some incredible work on educating people and doing what I think must be some of the hardest things of all, which is really leveling with people's current understanding and kind of bridging that gap and explaining things like privilege. And I'm just in awe of how, with such few words, she's just able to be very on point about it, and she's just done an incredible job. But I did pick up that she had to go away for a family emergency, and it has basically left the sort of financial things a little bit up in the air as far as I understood. So if you want to support her by buying her patterns, that's definitely something I've jumped to doing, because she's got incredible designs and I really do want to support her, both for her advocacy, I guess, and also because it's just a really awful situation to be in when you have to cash out for these emergencies. And now we can talk about the design, the actual designs that I knitted in Sandnes Cardigan. It's a just sort of thicker yarn than the recommended Quince & Co Chickadee, but I wanted to use it, and I thought a thicker yarn, that it would help me gain the row gauge in the pattern, because the row gauge in the pattern doesn't really need that many rows to make 4 inches in the height, and I know myself that I will need a lot more rows to gain that height, but this is color work, I can't just add a row. So usually if you use a thicker yarn, that will make the rows a bit longer because the yarn is thicker. I'm not sure that worked. I'm still quite off in row gauge. So I have taken to the balloon blocking method, which is one I normally don't use anymore because it does stretch out the rib. But you know what, this rib was really tight. I should not have gone with a 3mm needle. That was too tight on my personal tension. So I've done everything I can to stretch out this thing. So I thought we could have this be the moment of truth to see if I have made the hat fit, because it certainly didn't before, because my head is massive. I did not get row gauge. And basically, yeah, is this going to be for me or is it going to be a gift? That is what we're finding out now. So here's the hat. It's dry. I quite like that. You can try it on. You can fold it up. Ha! It does fit. I mean, I don't get to fold up the rib as much as it says in the pattern, probably owing to my row gauge, but hey. Haha. Look at that. It does fit my this massive brain capsule. Yeah, isn't it pretty? Look at that. Not colours I would have normally chosen, but they were the colours I happened to have in stash. They were very similar to the colours recommended, except I replaced the kind of orangey red with a black. And it's really cool. Oh my god, I am just really chuffed with this one. And so I guess the only thing I can recommend to other people who can't get row gauge the way I did is to also use thicker yarn I recommended, and maybe also just make a longer rib. Yeah, I mean, this does fit. It's just, actually it's got an extraordinarily good fit. It's just a rib, because I want to cover the ear, so it's like kind of the point of a hat. I'm not hipster the way that people in this area, you know, East London, they kind of wear their hats like this, so they're ridiculous, and they don't wear socks in the winter, and I'm like, I become one of those grannies who's like, pull up your pants, young man, you know, and I'm like, wear socks in the winter, it's cold. Young people. So anyway, the hoarfrost hat does not have the ends woven in, because this is the Skeindeer Knits podcast and you know what to expect here. I'm really happy with it. Yeah, gosh, I was so certain that this was not going to fit me. Would I have knitted the rib a bit looser? Yeah, probably. But it fits. It fits. Totally it fits. This is what happens when you don't swatch for hats. This is kind of what I mean when I talk about gauge and saying that gauge and swatching is different. I didn't swatch, but there will still be a gauge in the finished item, and it will still matter in terms of the size, the width, the height, everything. So I've never been the swatch police. I'm just saying, when you want to diagnose why your knitting does or does not work out, gauge. just put the ruler on, count your stitches within the given measurement, 4 inches usually. But yeah, the hoarfrost hat, it is finished. It is off the needles. And yeah, I used Peer-Gynt. It's the same yarn that I used for my ginormous cardigan. That should also be coming out hopefully soon. I keep saying that. You're probably going to lose patience with me soon. It's a delicious yarn. So the black yarn and the grey yarn is actually the exact same yarn that I had left for the cardigan, and the other blue shades I got from SKD Yarns, which is kind of where you can get this yarn in the UK. Yeah. Hoarfrost hat. I'm gonna have to move on to the other knits that I have finished. Yes, there is another one. I mean, of course I haven't woven in the ends, but it's the after party. Remember last time you saw this, I was on the body. It was like eternal stockinette. I was never gonna finish. Well, I just powered through in the end, thanks to a lot of Instagram live streams and what have you. By the way, digression. I should have put this in the beginning. This goes into admin, but I'm telling you now. Me and Amy of the Stranded podcast have decided that we are going to start doing some live streams on Instagram. It's probably going to be weekly at most and monthly at least. So I guess every other week on average, where we're going to take a topic and discuss. We have already taken on the topic of yarn elitism and knitting elitism and discussed that with you guys, and you guys bitched in the comments when we did it, and it was really fun and interesting, and I learned a lot and got to reflect a lot on topics such as that. I am still happy to discuss these things, I think, especially when I have a podcast with a considerable platform and outreach, which by the way, we reached 14,000 subscribers. I forgot to mention that too. That should have been in the thanks section. So when you have an outreach of 14k, you have responsibility. You have responsibility to not be an idiot, but also cut that. To take into account all the different places that people are coming from. And it's really hard because people have such different lives. There is like anything from, you know, race, gender, sexuality, disability, all the things that I just forgot. It's just like 1,000 potential perspectives to take on board that are, you know, life circumstances that are different than mine. And very often when I podcast, I just kind of see myself on the little screen, and I talk to myself and assume that the lives of people watching are the same, and they're not necessarily that. So I find these things really, really informative, and would not mind at all bringing it up on the podcast in the future. So of course, if you have an input about that, then by all means put it in the comment section down below. And yeah, I was just gonna say that this is something me and Amy intend to continue doing on the live streams on Instagram, and we do take suggestions for topics. They obviously have to be quite broad, so yeah, just put them in the comment section down below as well. I'm kind of fussy about like these things, that comments that are to do with a particular video, to be put below that video unless it needs to be private. So do make sure you put it there in a private message on some other platform, because that's another platform. But yeah, I have finished after party. That was what I was talking about. This is, well, first of all, a sweater I decided to cast on and just do it quickly because it's not for me. It is for a friend of a friend. I mean, she's also a friend, but a close friend of mine is also a close friend of hers, and we haven't really talked for ages, but I do know she would appreciate a knitted sweater. She's a, yeah, just a really nice, likable person and deserves a sweater, and I know she will love it. She'll probably find it a little bit awkward receiving it, but also probably cry of joy. So, you know, that's knit worthy in my book. So she's getting the after party sweater. This is the sweater from Lane magazine issue 6, which is, at the time that I'm recording this, the latest issue of Lane, but issue 7 is just around the corner, so I can't call it that anymore. But yeah, I have knitted this out of Holst Super Soft, one of my favorite yarns, really affordable. You've heard me say this lots of times before. I have cones and cones of Holst Super Soft, and they all contain several sweater quantities each, and all have pretty much cost me under £20, like most of them 15, but this massive one was twice as big, so it's more like 30. And I have so much left. I could probably crank out another 9 of these on that cone. I'm not joking. So, do I have anything to say that I haven't said before? I am a little bit sort of still miffed that there is a gauge difference between the stockinette and the colourwork, because it should be on the same gauge, but because of how it's placed it doesn't really matter, because I think the gauge given in colourwork is the loosest I will go for colourwork, and so I wouldn't have it knit on the same gauge as the stockinette. And I am also quite happy about the gauge on the stockinette because it did make it a little bit faster when it's looser. And when it's placed, the colourwork the way it is, it doesn't, you can't tell that it's pulling in because of the tighter gauge, right? It's supposed to already go in the yoke, so that doesn't really matter so much. Can you see the colour dominance blip going on here? I thought I was being careful. It's so obvious in these dotted patterns when you mess up the colour dominance, which is something I never care about, by the way, but you can see it, so why not comment on it. It's got some neat short row shaping at the back. I wasn't quite sure if they were going to be enough, but it certainly does look like it, although I haven't tried on the sweater myself. It did come with more short rows in the back, but they seem kind of randomly placed and I just didn't see the point, so I didn't do them. I would have probably done it had I made the sweater for myself, but since it's going to go to a friend who wouldn't notice either way and wouldn't really care, and you know, if nobody's going to appreciate all that purling, then I'm not doing it. So yeah, the finished after party sweater by Ostri something. I think she's a Danish designer living in France, and I'm really pleased with it. I did the sleeves very quickly, and then the body took me quite some time because there's a lot of stockinette, and then I did the yoke in 2 evenings. Once I was on the yoke, I was just whoop, and I had a finished jumper, and it was like it came out of nowhere. So yeah, gosh, do I have anything else to say? I mean, the value of this thing is probably less than £10 in terms of yarn. I mean, it's probably less than 5. I love holes so much, but obviously that's because I bought such a big quantity, so I don't think you can, yeah, anyway. It weighs probably less than 200 grams. I know I wound off just a bit more than 200 grams of the red, and I had a lot left. Like, this is all the red I have left. That's a considerable amount, and this is what I had left of the white. So I haven't actually done the maths of how much I used, but I will do it at some point, and it will be on my Ravelry projects. I just need to put this on a scale and do the... Anyway, you didn't come here for maths, you came here for finished projects that has got ends. Weaving in ends, just not... I don't want to do that. I can't really think of much else to say about the sweater, so I do think this is going to be the last time we are going to see it on this podcast. Do you have any last words, sweater? And sweater's like, bye bye. Yeah, awkward. So I did say I was gonna just add random things to bulk up the episode, and I did not lie to you. This is a sweater I did not knit. This is made by my friend Anushka, who I may or may not have talked into making a podcast, but we'll see about that. We're basically trading favors. She's gonna do some mattress stitching on my boxy that I made on the machine, and I did some Kitchener stitching on the sweater here, so she could make the body a bit longer because it was awfully short. I have very little information about it right now because obviously I didn't knit this, so I'll put that below. But basically I've done some Kitchener stitching. I was hoping it wouldn't show after washing, but there is a faint line, like can see it somewhere. Anyway, I shouldn't be pointing that out. Let's hope that Anushka's not gonna notice. I did the best that I could, and there was, like, you know, over 300 stitches, and yeah, again, holes super soft, you guys, at a very loose gauge, and it still works out. This is post bloom at a very loose gauge, a lot looser than I would do. Not that that was a judgment, that sounded very judgy. So just to like show you what happens when you knit it, I think it's like an 18 stitch gauge, right, or 20 or something. So this is meant to be loose, by the way. The pattern was written for a silk mohair, so if you see the pattern in pom-pom, you will know what I mean. I just thought I'd hold that up just to make it look like I've knitted more than I have. But this is a project by my friend Anushka. I just did some grafting. It took a whole evening. I want to have some recognition, you know? So how is my Eastlander doing? The one that I started to design earlier. You will not notice any difference. I'm going to show you this very briefly. If you want more details, check out last episode. Yeah, haven't come a lot further, maybe like this much. It's just, there's not much happening now until I'm done with it, basically. I'm going to obviously be binding off the sleeve steeks so that the body will join under the sleeve hole, the armhole. And then I'll just knit down to the rib, and luckily it's going to be semi-cropped for me, although the length is obviously adjustable. And yeah, I'm really thrilled with this idea to make like a classic Norwegian fisherman sweater for the ladies, or for anyone who wants a more feminine fit, and also for those who don't, because it's going to be ridiculously easy to adjust for. So yeah, it's going to be a drop shoulder or drop sleeve. I still can't remember if it's called either or just one of those things, but yeah. It has a bit of steeking and short rows and a bit of a sort of new and interesting and challenging construction. So that will be interesting when it comes out. More on that later. There's a lot of projects like this where I'm like, oh, I put in a couple of rows. It's going to be like that with the Amelia cardigan as well. I've literally just gone a little bit beyond where I bound off for the armholes last time. What I do have to say about it is that I calculated that the width of the shoulders is going to be way too wide for me and my sister. This is for my sister, but we probably have the same shoulder width, and it will drop off, and it's supposed to be a satin sleeve design. So I'm going to be binding off, or I was going to say decrease more as I go up here. So as you can see when you look closer, I am binding off about every other round, so it will sort of slope towards here, and the shoulder should stop here rather than down here, so that the satin sleeve will come up where the shoulder kind of, you know, is in motion, so to speak. So that's how far I've come with that. Not very far, just, yeah. It's Amelia, it's knit in Usk by Hillesvåg. It's a great yarn for this particular pattern, and yeah, you can see it's starting to look a little bit different now, because below here I have given it soak and dry, and above you can see the lace is sort of less open, because that's what I've knitted since, in case you like noticed. It's just a slow one, but I'm thinking she's gonna get it for Christmas, so I'm not in a particular hurry. I just thought, let's not save it till November again, you know, let's not do that. I've also been putting in some work into these socks. These are using stranded yarn, the first Frost colorway along with the Anti-Valentine colorway, and I really need to be getting a move on with these socks, because they are using Amy of Stranded Dye Works Valentine's Day colorway, which is just going to be sold this time of year. So if you want this colorway, you might want to prepare for that, because I can't guarantee it's going to come out in time. I am going to aim for it, but yeah, no guarantees. And I'm on the first sock, so that's how well that's going. But yeah, stockinette for the foot and color work for the leg. So there are more stitches for the leg than the foot, which was a little bit fiddly to find out how to do, but it is done. And that's that sock progress. The last project that I have to show you, and I want to spend a little bit of time on this one, because this project is everything. I can't believe I managed to hide it to last, but there we are. I'm also going to combine it with my acquisition section. My new hide and hammer bag. This is made by New, aka Fanula, who makes amazing canvas bags. I just love these. It's got a handle, it's got the leather thing. I have shown you one of these earlier, because one of them was for one of my knit along prices, but now I have one for myself. It opens up like this, and then you roll off the top, and it's like got ridiculous capacity, and it will need that capacity as this project grows, because the project, oh my days, am I ever gonna finish? Who knows? Not the point. This is just process through and through. Oh. Now, I'm not the one with the most patience when it comes to cables, and this is cable galore and then some. let me tell you about this project. I mean, I'm gonna sound like I'm exaggerating now, but I am not. My mind just went like a series of whoas every time I was like doing something new on this thing, because it's a contiguous satin sleeve with saddle shoulders and top down and cables, and like every little detail has been thought through. It's just so meticulous, and it's just such a satisfying knit if you can't tell. Oh my days. So yeah, this is a design by Hiroko Payne. I think pronunciation's never been my forte. Hiro Payne, and she has just done it with this thing. So this is also from the sixth issue of Lane magazine. I had a feeling I was going to cast on this a while ago, because I've had this sweater quantity of Aran weight Dye Ninja yarn in her high twist Aran Merino, which, despite having quite a twist, it's got also a considerable meterage for an Aran weight superwash yarn. So yeah, that's gonna be great. I mean, this I reckon will be quite heavy once it's done, because it's a coat, and it's in superwash, it's a coat, it's going to be heavy, so I'm glad it's got extra meters on it. Although I do think I'm 2 skeins short, which is a little bit of an issue. Also because the colorway is about to be discontinued, so I may need to take some action there. Or just make it a cropped coat. I mean, cropped coats, that's a thing, right? So anyway, I've just been enjoying this process. You really need your full brain capacity on this one. This is not what you would cast on at a knit night unless you have some kind of super brain like I'm sure Hiro has, because this is just incredible. I'm just speechless. Like, anyway, you wanted to see, I'm just staring at it now. It's knit flat, and yes, I am knitting it flat. Can you believe it? But I mean, it's just so many knit and pearls, it wouldn't be beneficial to knit in the round and steek and superwash, and it just would have been weird. So going with it. And yeah, I did get a question today actually about using superwash yarn for this, and asking me basically to comment on the podcast about what I think about choosing superwash yarn or non-superwash yarn, and I have a lot of thoughts around that. I don't know if I can condense it just down to this particular recording, but essentially one of the big determinants of whether I want to use superwash comes down to how warm do I want it to be. For me, superwash yarn falls somewhere between a non-superwash pure wool warm like this sweater, which is quite roasting right now, and a cotton sweater. Superwash wool for me falls somewhere in between in terms of how hot it makes me, not in terms of appeal, but in terms of heat. And yeah, that is a big factor. But also row gauge, that awful thing again, because if it's superwash, in the same manner that if it's a long staple or a smooth yarn, a worsted spun yarn that's been combed, it becomes smoother. And yeah, superwash yarns are smoother, and anything that's smoother will drape more. It will become a bit longer. It will grow lengthwise, as opposed to this yarn, which is JC Rennie, similar to Whole Super Soft, tends to shrink lengthwise and gain a bit more width. But if it's a superwash yarn or another type of smooth yarn, it can get longer. And I looked at the row gauge for this pattern and other patterns that I've chosen to use superwash yarns on, and realized I'm not gonna get row gauge with a non-superwash. It's going to become, I'm going to need more rows than the pattern says to get that length. And in this kind of design, where it's a lot of cables, I would like to get both stitch gauge and row gauge pretty much on point. And so I will be choosing a yarn that is in the same sort of quality and weight. So I've gone with Aran weight superwash merino, same as the pattern suggests. That seems safer in this kind of context. Had it been more of a simple texture or a stockinette, I probably wouldn't have cared, and I would have been able to adjust a more custom length. But here it's nice to get it just right. And I don't really have that many superwash garments, which is not that surprising, because like this time last year I said I was done with superwash sweaters and sweater quantities, and then I realized there is actually a room for them in my wardrobe, because there are those days where it's just still a little bit too warm for a proper woolly jumper, but it's still like cold enough to wear some kind of knitwear. So that's kind of when the superwash comes out. Granted, this is Aran weight, so it will probably keep me quite warm still. I love this so much. I am a little bit at the sort of a slog state right now though, because I'm just increasing for the sleeves. I have worked the shoulder cap, as you can see it comes down here, and I am now just increasing for the sleeve itself. And that is basically the largest stitch count I'm going to have as a whole. You know, it's going to be the entire thing in the round here, though, although flat, but you know what I mean. And once I've done that, I will be able to put the sleeves onto a spare cable or scrap yarn and work a lot fewer stitches, and I look forward to doing that. So I just need to power through that, and then oh, it's so beautiful. And I've actually heard that there's both a knit along for this particular coat in the designers Ravelry group, and there is Lane, they have their own knit along for anything from their publications, I think, till the end of the year. So that's my entry. Oh god, I'm just kind of losing my composure over this thing, honestly. I can't believe it. It's just, oh, it's like a mind massage. It's just like one of those little sort of things that really stimulate your intellect and knitting brain. I'm not making any sense now. Let's not make a fool out of myself any further and wrap this up, and you'll definitely be seeing this again because I am mildly preoccupied with it. I'm also being good in alternating skeins, by the way, in case anyone were going to wonder. The yarn is very consistent. I can't even see a tendency of striping when I do so, but we're not taking any chances, and yeah, it's just a good practice really. Although I have wondered about this, what happens if you have to change the yarn for both skeins at the same time? Are you gonna get a jog then? Never thought, not a jog, but like a abrupt color change. Haven't thought about this. But what is the chances I have to stop knitting from them at the exact same time? Questions about the universe and everything. Anyway, I think this episode turned out long enough after all. I did ask for questions on my Instagram app, so if I got any, there will be a bonus episode for that. And I think I'm going to wrap things up now, and yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see at least some of you at the Unravel festival that's coming up at the end of February in Farnham. I aim to be there on, I think, Saturday, so I hope to see you then. And if not, maybe Edinburgh Yarn Festival, or maybe here the next time I record. So yeah, like I said, thank you all so much for watching. Bye.